On March 5th, 1944, Aeon 47 hours, 31,000 feet above the fractured countryside of eastern France, where the morning sun bleeds cold and merciless across an indifferent sky. The air is thin here, so thin that breath comes shallow, that frost creeps across instrument panels, that the horizon curves slightly at the edge of vision. In this realm of ice and silence, war becomes something abstract, reduced to the geometry of contrails and the distant glint of aluminum catching light. Up here, men do not hear screams. They hear only the steady thunder of their own engines, the crackle of radio static, the measured rhythm of their own heartbeat inside leather and fleece. If you find these stories of courage and strategy inspiring, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps us keep these historical legacies alive. Oberleutnant Klaus Neumann sits cramped inside the narrow cockpit of his Messerschmitt, Bf 109 G6, one hand resting on the throttle, the other firm on the control column. Around him, 13 more fighters hold formation, sleek, predatory silhouettes painted in the mottled greens and grays of the Luftwaffe. They are part of Jagdgeschwader 2, Richthofen, a unit whose very name carries the weight of legacy, of Manfred von Richthofen himself, the Red Baron, the ghost who still haunts every German pilot's ambition. Neumann's breath fogs the inside of his oxygen mask. His eyes scan the sky with the methodical patience of a hunter. Below, the quilted farmlands of France stretch in every direction, stitched together by roads and rivers that glint like silver thread. Above, only the sun, immense, blinding, inescapable. It hangs in the east like a furnace, rendering everything beneath it into stark silhouette and glare. This is not the sky of 1940, not the sky where German fighters swept westward with impunity, where the swastika seemed destined to shadow all of Europe. This is 1944, and the sky has changed. It belongs now to those who can afford to fill it, to the Americans who arrive each day in waves, their bombers stacked in formations so dense they darken the horizon, their escorts so numerous that Neumann sometimes wonders if Detroit itself has learned to fly. But today, the Americans have sent only one, a single aircraft, a Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, massive, ungainly, a machine that seems too heavy to belong in the sky at all. The German pilots call it the Jug, short for juggernaut, and they do not say it with affection. The P-47 is a brute, 7 tons of radial engine and armored steel, mounting 850 caliber machine guns, capable of diving faster than almost anything the Luftwaffe can field. It is not graceful, it is not elegant, it is American, built with the kind of abundance that Germany can no longer imagine, forged in factories that run 3 shifts a day, fueled by oceans of high-octane gasoline that the Reich has not seen in years. And now, somehow, impossibly, this single Thunderbolt has strayed from its formation, separated, alone. Neumann's wingman, Feldwebel Otto Braun, spots it first. His voice crackles over the radio, tense but measured. Indianer, 2 Uhr hoch. Bandit, 2 o'clock high. 14 pairs of eyes turn. 14 hunters fix on a single target. The P-47 flies straight and level, seemingly unaware. Perhaps its pilot is lost. Perhaps his radio is dead. Perhaps he is simply young, inexperienced, one of the endless stream of American boys who arrive in England with fresh wings and overconfidence, who believe the war is already won because their newspapers say so, who have never learned that the sky does not forgive. Neumann's pulse quickens. This is the dream, the lone bomber, the crippled straggler, the easy kill. 14-1. The mathematics are so simple, they feel like destiny. He keys his microphone. Alle Flugzeuge formieren, Angriff in 15 Sekunden. All aircraft form, up, attack in 15 seconds. The formation tightens. 14 Messerschmitts converge like the fingers of a closing fist. And then, nothing goes as expected. To understand what happens next, you must first understand what these men expected, what every German pilot had been conditioned to believe about themselves, about their enemy, about the fundamental nature of aerial combat. For nearly 5 years, the Luftwaffe had defined itself by a singular philosophy: the fighter pilot as warrior elite, the last knight of the modern age. German training was rigorous, unforgiving. Pilots spent months in gliders before ever touching powered aircraft. They studied aerodynamics, tactics, ballistics. They learned to think in 3 dimensions, to calculate deflection angles instinctively, to exploit every microscopic advantage of altitude, speed, and surprise. The best of them, men like Adolf Galland, Werner Mulders, Erich Hartmann, were not merely skilled, they were artists of violence, surgeons of the air, and they had been winning. In Poland, in France, in the early desperate days over Britain, the Messerschmitt had proven itself a masterpiece, light, agile, deadly. German pilots shot down Hurricanes and Spitfires, P-40s and P-39s. They learned to think of themselves as superior, not through arrogance alone, but through accumulated evidence, through victory after victory after victory. But 1944 is not 1940. The men climbing into Messerschmitts now are not the same men who flew over the Channel. Many of the originals are dead. Many more are exhausted, their nerves frayed by endless missions, by the grinding certainty that every day the enemy grows stronger, while Germany grows weaker. The new pilots, boys like Otto Braun, like half the men in Neumann's formation, have perhaps 30 hours of flight training. In 1940, it was 300. The fuel to train them properly no longer exists. The time no longer exists. They are sent up anyway, because the alternative is to concede the sky entirely, and that is unthinkable. The Americans, by contrast, arrive with 200 hours of training. They arrive well-fed, well-rested. They arrive in aircraft that are replaced faster than they can be destroyed. When a P-47 is shot down over France, another rolls off the assembly line in Evansville, Indiana, the same afternoon. When an American pilot is killed, 2 more graduate from flight school in Texas. The arithmetic of attrition is brutal and inexorable, but arithmetic does not fly airplanes. Men do. And Oberleutnant Klaus Neumann is still a very good pilot. He pushes the throttle forward. The Daimler-Benz engine roars. His Messerschmitt accelerates, slicing through the frozen air, closing the distance. Around him, the other fighters follow, 13 sharks circling a single oblivious target. The P-47 continues straight, still unaware, still impossibly calm. Neumann's finger hovers over the firing button. His gun sight tracks the bomber's engine, cowling. 800 meters, 700, 600. He can see the American markings now, the white star on a blue circle, fresh and bright, painted with the confidence of a nation that does not yet know how to lose. 500 meters. Neumann fires. The Messerschmitt shudders as twin 13mm machine guns and a single 20mm cannon unleash their fury. Tracers arc across the sky, brilliant streaks of light that seem to move in slow motion. Though they are traveling faster than sound, he sees his rounds close the distance, sees them converge on the P-47's broad fuselage. And then the Thunderbolt is no longer there. It does not turn, it does not bank, it does not dive, it simply vanishes. One moment, the P-47 is occupying the exact center of Neumann's gun sight, a fat, lumbering target suspended against the blue. The next moment, there is only empty sky. Neumann blinks. His mind stutters, unable to process what his eyes are reporting. An aircraft cannot simply disappear. Physics does not allow it. Reality does not allow it. And then Otto Braun's voice explodes over the radio, high and tight, with something that might be panic or might be awe. Ist hinter der Sonne. He's behind the sun. Neumann cranes his neck, squinting against the glare. The sun hangs directly ahead now. A white-hot disk that sears the retina, that renders everything around it into meaningless silhouette. Somewhere in that blinding corona, the P-47 has hidden itself, has used the one thing that cannot be outmaneuvered or outgunned, the sun itself. For 3 full seconds, 14 German pilots search desperately, eyes watering, visions swimming with afterimages. The formation begins to lose cohesion. Messerschmitts drift, their clean geometry dissolving into confusion. And then the Thunderbolt reappears. It comes from above and behind, diving out of the sun with all the inevitability of an avalanche. 7 tons of steel and engine accelerating past 400 miles per hour. It's 8. Machine guns already firing, stitching a line of tracers across the sky. The first Messerschmitt, Feldwebel Braun's aircraft, disintegrates. There is no other word for it. One moment it is a fighter plane. The next, it is a cloud of debris, a sonde of aluminum and fire tumbling toward the earth. Braun does not have time to scream. He does not have time to bail out. He simply ceases to exist. The American does not slow. He pulls up in a brutal climb, his engine howling, and before the Germans can react, he is gone again. Vanished back into the sun's glare, invisible, impossible. Neumann's heart hammers. His hands grip the controls so tightly his knuckles ache. Around him, the radio descends into chaos. Wo ist er? Where is he? Ich sehe ihn nicht. I can't see him. Oben, nein, unten. Above, no, below. 13 Messerschmitts spiral and hunt, searching for an enemy they cannot see. And then he returns. Again, diving from nowhere, guns blazing, turning another German fighter into a fireball, and then climbing away, back into the sun, untouchable, again and again and again. The human eye cannot stare into the sun. This is not metaphor. This is biology. The retina, that delicate membrane at the back of the eye, cannot withstand unfiltered solar radiation. Even a few seconds of direct exposure causes temporary blindness, dark spots, swimming after images, a complete loss of depth perception. Longer exposure causes permanent damage. The eye waters involuntarily, a desperate attempt to shield itself. Vision blurs. The world becomes a haze of light and shadow. This is what the P-47 pilot understands. This is the advantage he is exploiting with surgical precision. Every attack follows the same pattern. He dives out of the sun's glare, fires a burst, never more than 2 seconds, and then pulls up sharply, climbing back into the light before the Germans can retaliate. He does not dogfight. He does not linger. He does not give them a chance to turn, to close, to use. The Messerschmitt's superior maneuverability. He simply appears, kills, and disappears. It is not bravery. It is not luck. It is tactics, executed with the kind of cold professionalism that the Luftwaffe used to pride itself on. Within 6 minutes, 5 Messerschmitts are falling from the sky. Oberleutnant Neumann tries to organize a defense. He orders his remaining fighters to split, half to climb above the sun's angle, half to dive below, to catch the American in a pincer when he attacks again. It is a sound tactic. It should work. But the P-47 does not attack again. Not immediately. The American waits, patient, invisible, while the German formation fractures under the weight of its own confusion. And when Neumann's fighters are scattered, when their cohesion is gone, when they are no longer a formation, but 13 individuals flying in rough proximity, then he strikes again. This time, he targets the climbers. 2 more Messerschmitts explode in midair. A third begins trailing. Smoke, its pilot frantically trying to nurse the crippled machine back toward German lines. 7 aircraft gone in less than 10 minutes. 14-1 has become 7-1, and the Americans are still winning. Neumann's throat is dry. His uniform is soaked with sweat despite the freezing cold. He has been flying combat missions since 1942. He has 23 confirmed kills. He has survived the Mediterranean, survived the Eastern Front, survived 2 years of missions over France. He is not a novice, he is not a coward, but he is afraid. Because for the first time in his career, Klaus Neumann understands what it feels like to be prey. There is a word the German pilots will use later, when they are safely on the ground, when they are trying to explain what happened in language that makes sense. They will call it Überlegenheit, superiority. Not numerical superiority. They had that, and it meant nothing. Not technological superiority. The Messerschmitt is still, plane for plane, a better dogfighter than the Thunderbolt. No, the superiority they are confronting is something deeper. It is the superiority of abundance over scarcity, of reserves over exhaustion, of a nation that can afford to train its pilots for 200 hours instead of 30, that can afford to lose 100 aircraft and replace them the next day, that can afford to send men into combat well-fed and well-rested and confident in the knowledge that if they are shot down, if they survive, they will be rescued, treated, sent home with honor. The P-47 itself is a symbol of this abundance. It is not an elegant aircraft. German engineers, upon examining captured Thunderbolts, are often baffled by its design. It is too heavy. It uses too much metal. Its engine consumes fuel at a rate that seems almost wasteful. A Messerschmitt is built with the precision of German engineering, light, efficient, optimized for performance with minimal resources. The P-47 is built like an American highway, overbuilt, over-engineered, armored so heavily that pilots have survived direct hits from 20mm cannon shells, equipped with a supercharger so powerful that it can fight effectively at altitudes where German fighters begin to struggle, mounting 8 machine guns when 4 would be sufficient, because America can afford the extra weight, the extra ammunition, the extra manufacturing cost. It is a machine built by a country that has never known siege, never known rationing, never known the desperation of fighting with dwindling resources against an enemy whose factories outproduce yours 10-1. And the man flying it, whose name Neumann does not know, will never know, is a product of the same abundance. He has been trained not merely to fly, but to think tactically, to use every advantage, to fight smart rather than brave. He knows his aircraft's strengths and weaknesses. He knows that the P-47 cannot turn with a Messerschmitt, cannot climb as quickly, cannot maneuver as tightly. So, he does not try. Instead, he uses what the Thunderbolt does better than anything else in the sky. He dives, he strikes, he runs, and he uses the sun. That ancient, inexhaustible weapon that belongs to no nation and every nation, that costs nothing and cannot be shot down. By 1002 hours, only 4 Messerschmitts remain. Neumann is one of them. The others are scattered across miles of sky, their formation completely dissolved, each pilot flying alone, trying to survive. The P-47 is still hunting them. Neumann's fuel gauge hovers near empty. His ammunition counter shows less than 50 rounds remaining. Around him, the sky feels immense and hostile, a vast empty arena where death can arrive from any angle without warning. He keys his radio one final time. His voice is steady, though it costs him effort to keep it so. Alle Flugzeuge, Rückzug, zurück zur Basis. All aircraft, retreat, return to base. There is no shame in it, not anymore. The alternative is annihilation. The 4 survivors turn east, their engines screaming, diving for the safety of distance and lower altitude. Behind them, the P-47 does not pursue. Perhaps the American is low on fuel himself. Perhaps he has made his point. Perhaps he simply knows that 4 kills in 10 minutes is enough, that there is no need for excess, no need to prove anything further. Or perhaps, and this is what haunts Neumann during the long flight home, perhaps the American is just being efficient, conserving ammunition, saving fuel, fighting with the cold, calculated pragmatism of someone who knows the war is already won, who knows that there will be another mission tomorrow and another the day after, and another after that. An endless procession of American aircraft filling the sky until there are no more German fighters left to oppose them. Neumann lands at 10:34 hours. His Messerschmitt's tires screech against the runway. Ground crews rush forward. Mechanics swarm the aircraft, checking for damage, refueling, rearming. They work with desperate speed because another mission will launch within the hour. There are always more missions. Neumann climbs out of the cockpit on shaking legs. He removes his helmet. His hair is plastered to his scalp with sweat. Someone hands him water. He drinks without tasting it. The squadron commander approaches, Hauptmann Werner Schreiber, a veteran of the Battle of Britain, his face lined with exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure. "Your report, Oberleutnant?" Neumann struggles to find words. How does one explain what just happened? 14 fighters against 1, and the 1 survived while 10 Germans died. It defies logic. It defies everything the Luftwaffe teaches about numerical superiority, about coordinated tactics, about the inherent skill advantage of German pilots. "We engaged a lone P-47, he begins slowly. "He used the sun. We could not counter it." Schreiber's expression does not change. He has heard this story. Oh, before, variations of it. Different pilots, different days, but always the same ending. The Americans attack from the sun. The Americans use their speed. The Americans do not fight fair, which is to say, they fight smart. How many did we lose? 10 confirmed, 3 more probable. Only 4 of us returned. Schreiber closes his eyes for a moment. When he opens them again, something has shifted in his gaze. Not surprise, not anger, just a weary, bone-deep acceptance. "Go to the barracks," he says quietly. "Rest. You fly again at 1400 hours. There is always another mission. 300 miles to the west, at an airfield in southern England, a P-47 Thunderbolt touches down with the heavy, graceful inevitability of a boulder settling into earth. The pilot, Second Lieutenant Robert "Bobby" McKay, 23 years old, from Omaha, Nebraska, cuts the engine and sits for a moment in the sudden silence. His hands are steady. His pulse is elevated but not racing. He feels tired but not exhausted. He has been in combat for 17 minutes. He has fired approximately 800 rounds of 50 caliber ammunition. He has shot down 5 enemy aircraft. It is his 7th mission. Ground crews swarm his aircraft, same as in Germany. But here the atmosphere is different. There is no desperation, no frantic urgency. The mechanics work with the easy confidence of men who know there are 1,000 more aircraft parked in rows behind this one, who know that fuel is plentiful, ammunition is plentiful, spare parts are plentiful, everything is plentiful. This is what America does. It produces abundance and ships it across an ocean. McKay climbs out of the cockpit. His crew chief, a wiry sergeant from Kentucky, grins up at him. "How'd she handle, Lieutenant?" "Like a Mack truck with wings," McKay replies. It is what he always says. The crew chief laughs. It is what he always laughs at. McKay walks across the tarmac toward the debriefing hut. Other pilots are returning. From their missions, climbing out of their own Thunderbolts, stretching, joking, complaining about the cold or the flak or the bad coffee at breakfast. The mood is not celebratory, but it is not grim either. It is professional, matter of fact. This is their job. They do it well. Tomorrow, they will do it again. In the debriefing hut, an intelligence officer listens to McKay's report with half an ear while filling out paperwork. "Encountered 14 enemy fighters, you say?" "Yes, sir, Messerschmitts. They came at me out of the north." "And you engaged?" "Negative, sir. I used the sun, hit-and-run tactics. 5 confirmed kills, 2 probable." The intelligence officer makes a note. 5 kills is significant, enough to make McKay an ace if confirmed, but the officer's expression remains neutral. Other pilots have reported similar numbers this week. The Luftwaffe is bleeding. Everyone can see it. "Good work, Lieutenant. Dismissed." McKay salutes and leaves. Outside, the English sun is bright and cold. Somewhere over France, German pilots are climbing into their Messerschmitts for another mission. Somewhere in a factory in Indiana, another P-47 is rolling off the assembly line. Somewhere in Texas, another class of pilots is graduating from flight school. The machine does not stop. The abundance does not falter. In the months that follow, the incident becomes a story. Not an official story. There are no medals, no newsreels, no propaganda films about the lone P-47 that defeated 14 German fighters. War is too vast for individual stories to matter much. But among the pilots, the tale spreads. It is told in barracks and mess halls, embellished slightly with each retelling, shaped into a parable. The Germans hear it too. Their version is darker, more bitter. It becomes a cautionary tale about the sun, about fighting an enemy who has every advantage except experience, and who no longer needs experience because they have everything else. But the deeper truth, the truth that neither side speaks aloud, is this: the sun is not the weapon. Abundance is the weapon. The P-47 Thunderbolt is not merely an aircraft. It is a statement. It says, we can afford to build machines this heavy, this durable, this powerful, because we have the factories and the steel and the fuel. We can afford to train pilots for hundreds of hours, because we have the time and the gasoline and the instructors. We can afford to lose aircraft and replace them faster than you can shoot them down, because our production lines never sleep. The Messerschmitt, beautiful and efficient, is a weapon born of scarcity, of a nation trying to do more with less. The Thunderbolt is a weapon born of excess, of a nation that has so much that it can afford to waste. And in the sky above Europe in 1944, excess is winning. Oberleutnant Klaus Neumann will fly 63 more missions before the war ends. He will survive the Normandy invasion, the retreat through France, the desperate final defense of Germany itself. He will see the Luftwaffe shrink from thousands of aircraft to hundreds, from hundreds to dozens, until on the final days of the war, there are not enough fighters left to mount any meaningful resistance, not enough fuel to fly them, even if there were. He will never forget the day he lost 10 men to a single American. He will never forget the feeling of helplessness, of being hunted, of having every advantage and losing anyway. After the war, he will emigrate to Argentina. He will never fly again. Lieutenant Robert McKay will fly 47 missions total. He will be shot down once over Belgium and will be rescued by the French resistance. He will return home in 1945, marry his high school sweetheart, attend college on the GI Bill, and work as a civil engineer for 40 years. He will rarely speak about the war. When pressed, he will say only that he did his job, that many men did far more, that he was lucky. He will never know the names of the men he killed on. March 5, 1944. He will never know about Feldwebel Otto Braun, 19 years old, who died in the first attack. He will never know about the other 9, their families, their dreams, the futures that ended in fragments of aluminum scattered across French farmland. This is the nature of aerial combat. It is clean and distant. You do not see the faces of the men you kill. You see only aircraft, targets, threats, problems to be solved with geometry and speed. The human cost is invisible from 30,000 feet. But it is real. There is a museum now in Dayton, Ohio, where they keep the machines of that war. Messerschmitts and Thunderbolts, Spitfires and Zeros, all suspended from cables in a vast hangar, frozen in mid-flight, silent and strange without the roar of engines. Visitors walk beneath them, craning their necks, marveling at the engineering, the artistry, the terrible beauty of machines designed for a single purpose. Children ask their parents which plane was faster, which was stronger, which was best. The parents who learned history from textbooks and documentaries give simple answers. The Americans won, the Germans lost. This is what happens when good fights evil, but anyone who flew during that war, on either side, knows the truth is more complex, more ambiguous, more human. The sun is still there, hanging in the same sky, indifferent to the nations that fight beneath it. It does not care about ideology or justice or who deserves to win. It simply burns, constant and eternal, a weapon available to anyone with the intelligence to use it, the patience to wait for the perfect angle, the discipline to strike and vanish before the enemy can respond. In March of 1944, one American pilot understood this. He used it to turn 14 hunters into prey, to transform numerical disadvantage into strategic superiority, to prove that in war, as in everything else, it is not always the biggest force that wins. Sometimes it is simply the smartest, the most patient, the one who understands that survival is not about courage or honor or any of the abstract virtues that men tell themselves matter. Sometimes survival is just about knowing where to hide and when to strike, and that the sun, for those with the will to use it, is the greatest equalizer of all. The German radios that day crackled with panic and confusion, with desperate voices trying to locate an enemy they could not see, trying to fight a threat that used their own sun against them. Ist hinter der Sonne, they screamed. He's behind the sun. And by the time they understood the truth, that their real enemy was not one man and one aircraft, but the entire industrial machinery of American abundance, the endless conveyor belt of production that could afford to waste where Germany had to conserve, that could afford to lose where the Luftwaffe had to win. By the time they understood, it was too late. The sun had already moved, the P-47 had already vanished, and 10 more. Messerschmitts had fallen from the sky like spent brass casings, tumbling end over end toward earth, toward silence, toward the long forgetting that awaits all soldiers when their wars are done. This is what remains: a story, a lesson, a moment frozen in time when 14 became 4, when hunters became hunted, when the sun, ancient, patient, indifferent, became the instrument of a deeper truth about power, about resources, about the inexorable mathematics of a war already lost. The P-47 landed safely, the pilot walked away, and somewhere over France, the sun continued its arc across the sky, illuminating nothing, judging nothing, simply burning as it always has, as it always will. The same sun that watched empires rise and fall, that saw Rome and Carthage and Troy, that will still be shining long after every word of this story is forgotten, constant, eternal, undefeated. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this historical deep dive, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments which historical figure we should cover next.